Now enter predator camouflage. I absolutely love predator camouflage. The biggest problem that I have with predator camouflage is that you really have to be particular. As you can hear, the 1 o'clock tornado siren that goes off up here in St. Clair County during the storm month. So just bear with it, and that's the beauty of Nomad Outdoors. Is I'm not going to edit this stuff out. This is how we do things. Anyways, back to predator camouflage. So predator camouflage, I love the see-through concept that predator camouflage uses. So many different high-end camouflage companies don't have a pattern that wants your eye to see through it. They're afraid to throw any lights or any highlights in there that are brighter than the background or the foreground of the camouflage, because they think that it's going to give them away. But the problem is not necessarily giving them away. The idea is you want to be able to look at the camouflage pattern and appear as if you're seeing through it. So the light spots in my camouflage actually blend in with the light spots that's behind me, giving you that see-through appearance. I wish there was a much easier way for me to explain how this concept works, but it is by far probably the best way to camouflage yourself in, is to have the appearance where somebody is going to look through you, because your camouflage blends with the foreground and with the background. Not just the pattern that's going to hide your shape. It's going to take, and if you can notice that a lot of the shape that I have, like an arm or a shoulder, is sometimes difficult in appearance because of the light color that's in the predator camouflage. Now later into the season, when things get more green, then I'm going to have another camouflage pattern. That's the detractant, or that's the bad part that I have with predator camouflage, is it's site specific, environment specific. So in the early spring, this camouflage works excellent. Now, to hunt more in the late spring, when everything starts to green up, then I'm going to need another outfit that has more greens in it than the tans and the grays. So that being said, camouflage sometimes can be a really tricky thing when it comes to picking what you're going to use and how you're going to move in the environment. And trying to keep things low budget, we're going to have a tote or a bin that has so many different types of camouflage in it, and if I'm going to move from this area to a different area, what camouflage is going to work best that's going to allow me to work in all of the seasons, in all of the environments. And I believe the digital camouflage does work extremely well, but I am a big fan of this predator camouflage as well, because as I transition into the lighter areas, and I can move into a little bit lighter area that's to the back of me, it doesn't give my outline away the same way that the digital camouflage does. Had to pull a little camouflage concealment scenario on my own. Like I said, I'm at a campground, and there's people walking down the trail. Now they can see into the woods as well as I can see out of the woods, but being that it's like an aerial attack here, I got helicopters flying around. Somebody probably called me in. Be just my luck. So another thing, and there's so many things to take into account with camouflage and concealment, this is why it's an art in itself. Understanding that we go back to the 80% is synthesized by the brain, 20% that we focus on we see. When people are walking down a trail, the group that just went by, they're going down to the beach. They're looking into the woods, but they're not paying attention to anything. So that if I hold a good still camouflage position and I don't move, when they look into the woods, they're not going to pick me up. As long as I stand still, they're not going to see me. And I've got a straight shot that's looking right off to where my campsite is. I've got a straight shot down this trail that shows you know, exactly where the road is, and it shows exactly where my campsite is. So when these people go down the trail, I'm not gonna hide in this open area. I'm gonna do exactly what I just did, and I'm gonna step off into that back section, and I'm gonna hide over here and use a tree or use cover to be able to camouflage my position. So we talked about digital camouflage, and we've talked about predator camouflage. Now the old staple is woodland camouflage. Woodland camouflage will work in a pinch, but the problem with woodland camouflage is I don't believe that there's enough dark and light contrast in the camouflage to be able to truly allow you to stand in or stand out. Next section we'll talk about woodland camouflage and demonstrate woodland camouflage. So this is your classic military woodland camouflage, old school. A lot of studies in the military have transitioned over to looking at different types of camouflage and the way different types of camouflage works. As you can see, if I step off, we talked about earlier, if I step off to the side of the tree, you can see that my human shape is definite. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add some background to it by stepping in front of the tree, and then I kind of blend myself in with the tree, and now I can kind of take my shape and hide my shape. My arms stick out, my arms are going to give me this movement here is all highlighted. But if I can stand in this position, or best off even better, is to squat down here and blend in with the trunk of the tree. This gives me a much better ability to be able to blend in. Now, so my problem that I have is that this type of background for woodland camouflage doesn't work. It doesn't work as well as I would like it to. A tree bark pattern would work much better, and it's rare anymore that I can find a true tree bark camouflage pattern. Most of the camouflage patterns that are tree bark, the problem is when you step away from the tree bark, then it becomes a dark object. But up against a tree, it's great. Again, we get into this whole transition of what camouflage is going to work best for me, what is going to be the most universal. And there's, as I said this over and over again, there's so many different patterns that are out there. I think the more open, the more sticks and limb type of look, like predator camouflage, allows me to be able to blend in much better into my environment, but limited by colors. Again, I like the digital camouflage because that digital camouflage gives me a universal ability to be able to hide. Whether I hide with my back up against a tree or I hide in a dark area. Not so good for the lighter areas, where the predator camouflage can work a little bit better for the lighter areas. So woodland camouflage works well, but some of the things that I will want to take into consideration with woodland camouflage is using some sort of natural cover to be able to help blend me in. And what I mean by natural cover is I can take things that are on the ground and be able to use those things to be able to camouflage myself in to give me a little bit more of a three-dimensional look. A few things. Say I'm going to use this branch, and I can put this branch out in front of me, and I can use this fern as well. Now this starts to give a three-dimensional look. I can cover my face, but I can still see through this fern because it's close enough to my face that I can still see through it. I can take this same fern and I can tuck it into my clothes and make it part of my camouflage. And this doesn't have any pockets on it, so it makes it a little bit difficult to be able to do that. But if I was to take this fern and this camouflage and take this and tuck it into my to a front pocket, or tuck it into my hat, or even something as simple as laying it over my shoulder, and being able to use that natural camouflage to be able to blend in my regular camouflage. Now, something to take into consideration, a lot of people don't ever think about when they're working with their camouflage, is that this fern grows a certain way, and if you look at it from this position, you can see this is the natural way that we see the fern, with the darker green side showing up. People, when they camouflage, and this plays into tracking as well, people when they camouflage, they sometimes take that same environment and they turn it to the backside. But you can see that this backside is not the natural color. It's a lighter green on the back than it is on the foreground or on the front. So when I turn this camouflage this way and expect the camouflage to work for me, it draws the eye because it's a different color from, a lot of times, from the other ferns that are in the woods. So we want to make sure that if we're going to use natural camouflage, we use the face of the camouflage that we normally see, not the underside. There's a big difference between this look here and this look here. Something to take into consideration, to take into account. Camouflage patterns work in so many different ways, and some of them work really well. Now, we'll talk about material. Everything that we've pretty much seen so far has been material that has a tendency to shine. Now, taking into account certain animals that deal in seeing ultraviolet lights is going to be difficult in camouflage because these materials will reflect light. Now, they do sell clothes washes that help to dim down that ultraviolet reflection, but one thing that I know for sure that works absolutely well, and that's the next set that I'm going to use, is going to be wool. Wool and fleece work very well for absorbing light and not reflecting. Makes it, takes that ultraviolet shine and can kind of take it away. And the only drawback is wool and fleece are very warm. So you also got to take into consideration when you're wearing wool or fleece what the environment that you're going to be in. Fleece is very warm until it gets wet, and then it loses its heat retention ability. Wool does not. Wool, when it gets wet, it can still maintain about an 80% heat retention. So I choose wool over anything else, and it's not cheap. It's expensive. So save up if you want to get yourself a good set of wool camouflage. I think that Columbia makes a really good inexpensive form of wood or wool, but one of the best things that I have found, one of the best companies out there, is King of the Mountain. King of the Mountain makes a great set of wool hunting gear that is going to be extremely warm and keep you as dry can be, and if you do get wet, it dries really quickly. Something to take into account when you're out there in the field without modern conveniences. You want to be able to have your gear, you want it to be able to dry quickly. Wool does dry fairly quickly, but the fact that it maintains its heat retention is extremely important. So my next set is now going to be with my King of the Mountain wool camouflage. Alright, a little side note for all you short hairs that are out there. You know, we have our own natural camouflage, and our own natural camouflage is hair. Lately, I have been on a kick with long hair, and working in the career fields that I do, it's not always looked highly upon to have longer hair, but as an outdoorsman, that long hair can definitely camouflage you. Right now, my forehead shows extremely bright and shiny, so all I have to do is shake it up a little bit, use my own hair to camouflage in my face, and before you know it, there's some natural camouflage that I can see through. I look like an emo too. Sorry if I offended any emos, but your hair can be absolutely natural camouflage as well. So all you short hairs that are out there, grow your hair long, become more in tune with the environment. Alright, so this is my King of the Mountain camouflage, and I have a Columbia wool hat that I'm going to add to the set as well. And I've taken some True Leaf 3D pattern to be able to throw that into the front, which helps me be able to camouflage into certain environments. Now, the beauty of this is, even as I move off into lighter areas, this camouflage has a tendency to absorb the light and not reflect as much as the other camouflages does. Now, the problem that you have is that it does appear from a distance to be extremely dark. I've noticed it at night. It is very difficult to see the wool in the pitch black. But when right around twilight or right around the end of the day at dusk, sometimes this appears a lot darker than the environment that's around it. But this is a really good camouflage pattern because from a distance it has a tendency to blend in with a lot of the natural environment. So as I lean up against this tree, my camouflage kind of sets in and blends real easy because of the dark colors that are on it. I love this wool camouflage, but it doesn't work so well when it's warm out, so we have to have things that are a little bit lighter weight material. This is a different camouflage pattern, and it has a lot more open area in it. Thing that you have to think about when you're in the woods and using this as a camouflage pattern is that, oh, I lost my train of thought, but this happens sometimes when you're free flying. You know, the idea is that you can wear two different types of camouflage. As you can see, these two camouflages are two different colors. But remember too, when you move through the woods, your lower body is going to be at ground level, so you can wear a camouflage that blends in with the low environment, and then your upper torso can be, as you look off into the woods, you pick where your horizon is going to be. And your lower camouflage can be a different color camouflage than your upper camouflage, based on your ability to be able to look into the woods and see a hard line or a hard horizon. That is going to be the lower forest cover, and then you have the upper forest cover. So having camouflage like woodland camouflage for a lower pattern, or the digital camouflage works very well for a lower pattern, and then you could use something like the predator camouflage on top. Just take into consideration when you camo yourself in that as you drop, that lighter camouflage is now going to blend in with the darker forest ground than the upper forest ground. When I'm out hunting in the swamps and in the marshes, you're going to want a camouflage pattern that's going to blend in with all the grasses and all the swamp grasses that are out there, which is a completely different pattern that you have in the woodland. So you are going to have to take and do a little bit of research and development on your own to be able to figure out what environment you're going to be in and what camouflage pattern works best. I keep a Tupperware tote, a large size Tupperware tote that I keep my standard camouflage patterns in, my standard camouflage gear. I have a whole nother tote that's for what I call winter camouflage, which is going to be a lot lighter colors to include my snow camo. So this is just another example of a different type of camouflage, but as you can see, that broken pattern is what you're looking for, as well as the ability to be able to see through the camouflage. And depending on your environment, if you're going to be hunting a tree stand, you don't want a see-through camouflage because your background is going to be the tree. So you're going to have a camouflage that is going to be darker, more like the digital camouflage or the King of the Mountain wool. If you are going to be hunting on the ground, then you're going to want a camouflage like Predator that's a little bit more see-through. Again, you have to know where you're going to be hiding. You have to know where your set is going to be to determine what camouflage is going to work best for you. Hunter orange camouflage. We take a risk when we go out into the woods and we hunt during firearm season. We want to be as visible as possible to not get shot. In the state of Michigan, we have 750,000 hunters that take to the woods come hunting season. When you have that many people in the woods at the same time with a gun, you want to make yourself as noticeable as possible. Now, the all blaze orange with no pattern on it from head to toe is going to be the best thing to not let you get shot. But keeping in mind that deer see in blacks and whites or grays or lights and darks, not necessarily color. So if you are blaze orange from head to toe with no breakup in it, they're going to be able to pick up your pattern. If you have a pattern more like this that has a breakup on it, based on the way that they see, if you move in the environment that best suits this camouflage to work, staying into a little bit into the shadows and in a little bit darker colors, it's hard for that deer to be able to differentiate because it's giving you a three-dimensional look. It sees a light color and it sees a dark color that's broken up just like the wood, so you technically can blend in with the light colors behind you. I'm going to hopefully do some creative editing with this section to be able to convert it to black and white, or to be able to convert it to gray, so that we can get kind of an idea how the deer may see this blaze orange color. Don't give up hope with blaze orange. You are going to be noticeable to those creatures that can see in color. Turkey, and I don't know if ducks see in color or not, but I know they have pretty good vision, and I know camouflage has to be extreme for duck hunting and turkey hunting. I can get away with a little bit more with deer hunting, just based on that they really don't have the greatest vision in the world. Now, the true predator that's out there, man, we have to really pay particular attention to what we're doing with our camouflage. This is a tree bark camouflage. I find this to be really, really effective for tree stand hunting, because it has enough lights and darks. Everything is in a vertical position, straight up and down. It doesn't have horizontal or diagonal lines in it. When we get up in a tree and we're hiding up in a tree, we can set ourselves back up against that tree, and this camouflage will have much more of a tendency to blend in against the backdrop of a tree than some of the other camouflage patterns that have a more open pattern. This is made out of a gauze material, which is perfect type of camouflage for using in the type of environment that I'm dealing with now. So, you know, we have a lot of options when it comes to camouflage, but the thing that is more important than understanding the pattern of camouflage that you have, it's understanding that the environment that you're going to be in. We can go as native and as primal as we want with our camouflage, and we could actually just go out there in the buff if we wanted to, although it would be slightly illegal. Can't be running around naked with your junk hanging out. But you can use natural camouflage, and what natural camouflage would be that I'm going to pick up dirt off of the ground, and I'm going to rub that dirt onto certain parts of my body. Not that part, Gray Bear, because I know exactly what he would be thinking. But I would take that dirt, I would use clay, I would use mud, I would use dirt, I'd crush up leaves and grind them down to get that green tone that comes out of them and make a paste. I would take white wood ash and charcoal, and normally what I would do for natural camouflage, and I do have a tendency to do this, is I'll carry a Ziploc bag with the remnants of a campfire, which is going to have dry wood ash and it's going to have charcoal. A caution out there that dry white wood ash, when mixed with water, creates an acidic type material, so you don't want to get too wet, because it can be an irritant to the skin if it gets really wet. But what I would do for natural camouflage is I would take the white wood ash as a base, and I'd dust myself with white wood ash all over. Then I would add my camouflage pattern with the charcoal, and I'd paint myself in vertical and diagonal stripes. Horizontal stripes are sometimes difficult to add to your camouflage pattern because there's not a lot of horizontal things that are in the woods. Yes, we do have deadfalls and trees that are down, but when you're in a mobile environment, you want those patterns to be straight vertical lines or diagonal lines, which is more indicative of what you see in the woods. As you look through, your eyes aren't really picking up any of the lines that are out there because those lines are straight up and straight down or on diagonals. If I have a horizontal line that's out there, that's what draws my attention. That's going to wrap up our little training section on camouflage and concealment. I hope I gave you guys some good ideas, some things to take into consideration when it comes to camouflage. We get back to camp here, I will cover my backpack and certain things that you can do to your backpack to blend it in as well. Remember that backpack sits on your back as a big hump, and that is another thing that can give yourself away if it's not camouflaged the right way. You know, you don't want an all black backpack. You want to camouflage your backpack just as well as you camouflage your clothes. And I do have a tendency to modify my camouflage sometimes by dyeing it or using cloth paint to add certain lines to it to help blend it in a little bit better. that's going to wrap up this little section right here for Nomad Outdoors, our training division. Take into consideration a few things to think about when you're out there looking for training and looking for companies to go train with. We are an affiliate school for onPoint Tactical, www.onpointtactical.com. You can see where the class is, and I got a mosquito that just happens to be right in my eye frame. Check out onPoint Tactical and see the courses that they have available. Now this whole section of camouflage and concealment was shot right off of this main drag in the state campground up in St. Clair County, and I have had numerous cars, campers, kids on bikes, park rangers that have cruised right up and down this road here that all the campers are set up, and I've not drawn the attention of anybody. I haven't had anybody glance off into the woods. Nobody stopped and took a look at me and said, wonder what that guy's doing out in the woods. Like I said before, it's based on the idea and the concept that they are not looking for somebody in the woods. They're not even looking into the woods. So it was easy for me to shoot this episode not far off the beaten track. I was not any more than 50, 60 yards into the woods during this whole section. So trust in your camouflage. Don't move, don't draw attention to yourself. Always trust your camouflage.